known as $2 Tuesdays at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers' best bet or daily package for only $2.
It is Monday, May 10th, and we are back live right here on WagerTalk TV for another episode of Puck Time. I am Andrew McInnis, joined by Carmine Bianco and Dave Cokin. Guys, pretty much for the last several weeks, I kept on hyping up the playoffs were almost here. Certain teams, games meant more for them than others. Well, that couldn't mean any more this week. I want you guys to be careful with your betting. Check the lineups, check your goaltenders, check which players are in, which games matter for certain teams. We're going to do our best to deliver that information for you guys on the show. As far as my weekend goes, it was pretty much, a split on Friday, a split on Saturday, and a profitable Sunday. So still running extremely hot, but a so-so weekend. I'll bring in Carmine, man. How you doing, Carm?
Doing good. Still in a little bit of pain, but I got some doctor's appointments this week, and hopefully they go well and they can figure out what the hell is wrong with me. I can't figure it out. But yeah, it was one of those weekends. Saturday, not great at all. Sunday, absolutely fantastic, and already a couple winners this morning to start the day with literally 13 straight winners. So it's a nice little run, and hopefully I can carry that into tonight, where I have a couple NHL plays up, and into the week, where it's going to be a busy week across all sports, MLB, soccer, and NHL. So I'm kind of looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to getting some opinions on today's games, which I have picked out for today's show, because we have Dave Cokin on the show, and this man is absolutely on fire. NHL #1 last 2 years, and plus 63.55% bankroll gain. So without further ado, let's bring him in. Dave, how was your weekend, my friend?
Well, it was okay. The hockey has been really good for 2 years running now, basically. And WagerTalk has come up with a special. I talked to Johnny Detroit yesterday, and they said, let's do something for the playoffs. And they did. They came up with, this is pretty good, 30 days of all my NHL, which means you're going to get a good portion of the playoffs. And the regular price, you can get this from anybody for a $149. But if you use the coupon code DC99, you're going to get mine for $99. Full month of NHL for $99 works out to $3.30 a day. And that'll start with a play tonight. You can get that play individually for $9. But this is a good package. So take advantage of it now. Go to my homepage, wt.buzz/DC, and get yourself set up for what should be a fun NHL Stanley Cup playoff chase.
Good stuff.
DC99, guys. Make sure you guys use that coupon code for Dave. Dave is running hot. And Carm, congrats on that huge run, man. That's awesome. You got me fired up, man. Looking forward to this week. Let's have a great week, guys. Let's have a great show. And today's games, we'll go over the games for today. It's going to be the Habs and the Oilers, Avalanche, Golden Knights, New York Islanders, and the Bruins. Hurricanes going head-to-head with the Predators, and the Sunshine State game, the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Florida Panthers, which will be a playoff matchup that we'll see in just a couple weeks. So I can't wait for that, guys. But without further ado, let's dive in here with the Oilers and the Montreal Canadiens. Dave, I saw you tweeting about this. I was excited about it. I think, Carm, me and you were talking about it as well. Connor McDavid, he reaches that 100-point milestone. Just unbelievable. He is on a whole different level than everybody else out there, it seems like. But the Montreal Canadiens have done a great job of containing him. They've actually done a great job against this Edmonton Oilers team. The Oilers team obviously in second place in the division, but the Habs have actually done a great job defensively and shutting down those top guys on the Oilers. It's a pick'em game here, and people are wondering, what does this game really mean for the Edmonton Oilers? They have literally clinched that second spot. They're not going to move up, not going to move down. They are in this second spot. Meanwhile, this game still means a hell of a lot more for the Montreal Canadiens, but as we have said numerous times, just because it's a must-win game or a big game doesn't always mean you will win. Carmel, I'll go to you first in this game. I look back to that game for the Canadiens against the Maple Leafs, last week, and I think to myself, If they didn't start Caden Primo and make a boneheaded decision to start Allen against the Senators and Primo against the Leafs, the second and third period was a great game for the Montreal Canadiens, and they only lost one by one. I think that back-to-back games against the Leafs were pretty competitive, but now they got to play the Oilers. Find the win column again here. I lean towards my Habs.
Yeah, I don't blame you for leaning towards them. They're the only one where this game is meaningful to. They need a win or a loss in regulation time, and they will finally, as the last team, clinch their playoff spot. And with that said, when I was on the Sirius show on Saturday, I talked about the fact with the host there, Joe Ranieri, that we talked about the Edmonton game, and he's like, McDavid's 4 points away from 100. Does he get it? I'm like, he might actually get it tonight, which was not tonight, but on Saturday night. And he was out there pretty much every other shift, it seemed. He was on the ice, and they just kept feeding him the puck. He got to 100. So the point I'm trying to make is, how meaningful is this game to the Oilers? I get it that Montreal's 5-2 against them this season. You might want to send a message, but there's no message to send. If you're happy with your team, you're happy with your team. It's 5-1-1 to the under between these two. You mentioned at the top of the show, and this is going to be a reoccurring theme I think we're going to talk about all week, is to check on the goalies. Here's the problem: is normally I would say they'll probably start Smith tonight and then rest them in the final game before the playoffs. But the playoffs have been extended from the original start date of May 11th to the regular season ends on the 19th. It's screwing everything up as far as how I usually plan who I think is going to start, who I think is going to rest. The same thing with the Nashville game. We'll talk later with Saros. With that said, I'm still going to lean to the under here. This is a Montreal team that is struggling to score goals, but they seem to play a little bit better at home. And this seems like one of those low-scoring games. I don't know. Are they going to manage McDavid's minutes tonight? He doesn't need the 100 points. He's at the 100 points. So with that said, I get your lean to Montreal, and I'll probably just lean to the under here because it's at 6. At 5.5, this game would be an absolute pass for me. At 6, I'll lean to the under.
What are your thoughts here, Dave?
Well, my thoughts are that if I ran the Edmonton Oilers, I would tell Connor McDavid, enjoy a couple of days on the golf course because you're not making this trip. There is absolutely no reason for him to be on the ice in any of these games. Not like he's going to get rusty sitting around. It's Connor McDavid.
No.
I think they're idiots if they play him. Quite frankly, he's already got the 100 points. He's already wrapped up the heart, as far as I'm concerned. I'm seeing stuff on Twitter where it should be Sidney Crosby, it should be this guy. Are you kidding? It's McDavid. Okay, McDavid is the MVP. Some of the silliest arguments. Well, where would the Penguins be without Crosby? Probably still in the playoffs. Maybe not. But I can tell you where Edmonton would be without Sidney Crosby. They'd be somewhere in the Anaheim neighborhood as far as points are concerned. They wouldn't be in the playoffs. Anyway, there's only one team where the game has even a little meaning. And for the Canadiens, look, they're in. Okay? I mean, it would take an absolute miracle for them not to make the playoffs. Calgary would have to win all their games, and Canadiens would have to go pointless. I think Montreal probably gets to pop the champagne if they do that tonight. The only thing I can give you here is that if it's announced at some point the Oilers are resting some guys tonight, this line's going to move. It's not going to move in the other direction, I can tell you that. So if you're looking to maybe set up some kind of a middle for yourself, I'd bet Edmonton now. I'd bet Montreal now and wait to see what happens with the line. You might be able to come back on the other side, or if not, just sit there with the Canadiens bet.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, there's going to be a lot of movements, especially this week from the time we record Puck Time, Dave, and, a couple hours later, especially with some of these teams that are waiting upon information. And I get it, what you're saying, Dave. Montreal, they're pretty much in, but this is coming from a Montreal fan. Of all the teams right now in the league, you look at some of the other teams that are going to be in fourth place, they're not really coming in with positive momentum. I mean, let's be honest here. They've dealt with injuries. They've dealt with struggles. They haven't been, they haven't been consistent at all. the talk of the town is that they're only in because of their overtime losses. So the point being is that, they might not want to be like, hey, we're in the playoffs. Every game matters to them at this point. There's no games where they're taking off by any means, because they've taken off too many games that they've lost, and they're barely just crawling into the playoffs. So it should be interesting, and I'm curious to see, because Dave, I want to ask you, you've been doing this a lot longer than me, following hockey a lot longer than me. What have you seen in your experience with, quote for quote, resting players? You see it in the NBA at like halfway through the season, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. But what have you seen at the end of the year in hockey? Is it a real thing?
Sure. As it should be. If you're playing a meaningless game, then it's probably a good idea to rest. And they've played, they've played a lot of games in a condensed schedule.
Yeah.
Why would you risk injury? Look, it's the same in every sport, isn't it? The Colts were unbeaten one year. It didn't matter. They still rested Peyton Manning in the last 2 games. Why? Because playoffs aren't going to mean much if Manning takes a big hit and he's out of the game, and the game meant shit. So you just get it over with. That's what I don't know how many of these teams will do it, but you gave some good advice at the top of the broadcast, which is you better check the lineups, because you're going to see a lot of taxi squad guys out there for playoff teams in the next 2 days. And you might even see it for non-playoff teams who are going to put some guys on the ice and kind of see what they can do in these last games or 2.
Yeah, and Andrew, to Dave's point, we have so much access to social media and information out there that you need to check it. Case in point, before I get back to this game and we move on to the next one, is you look at Washington on Saturday. 3 or 4 players ruled out with lower body or upper body injuries that could have played, but they chose to give them the night off, including Ovechkin on that Washington team. And if you watch Washington, they looked absolutely listless in that game with some of their best players out of the lineup. So it's one of those things that over the next 3-4 days, it's going to be a reoccurring theme that you're going to have to watch and stuff. And to my point of this Montreal game, real quick. All right.
They won.
Go ahead, Carm. We'll go to Dave. Yeah, they did win the game. They did win the game.
But they won anyway. They had 16 skaters. They had 16 skaters in the third period. That's all that's it. And they came back and won the game. So even that's why you can't look at this and say, well, they're resting this. It still doesn't mean you're going to win your bet.
Yeah. Carm?
Yeah. If they were playing a team that could actually play, I think they might have been in for it. But with that said, Andrew, the meaningless stat of the day. I always throw one meaningless stat out of the day, but he's on the show tomorrow, and he has a 5% play up today. Buster has a 5% play at Sports Memo. He's 78% with his last 18 5% releases, 14-4, including a 4-0 run in NHL, and he had a great April. 75% profit in NHL. But the meaningless stats, because Buster's on the show tomorrow, is Montreal is 8-2 on Mondays. I throw that out every Monday.
Yeah.
There you go.
Dave, do you remember when Carm said that last week? It's actually becoming a really funny thing. It's becoming a really funny thing, actually. It's not obviously anything too serious, but it's become a really funny joke with us on our Tuesday show that whenever Buster comes on, the Habs always win the night before. And he's all excited about it. Let's get into our next game, the marquee matchup, the Vegas Golden Knights and the Avalanche. This is a marquee matchup if you ever could have one. 2 teams, the top of their divisions, or at least, battling neck and neck for 1 and 2. A pick'em game here. Let's look at this. Under is 5-2 last 7 meetings, and these 2 teams have shown signs of, defensive brightness, but also against great teams, they've also just gone way over the total and gone goal for goal for goal for goal. I'm curious how this game will go from a total standpoint. We talked about checking lineups, talked about injuries. I look down the list right now. I see Nathan McKinnon questionable. I see Sam Girard out. I see Byram out. I see a lot of injuries, a lot of question marks for this team. But we touched on it. This is why certain teams are so great. Like Dave said, with Washington having players out of their lineup, they still won that game. They still scored some goals. So even with some key guys out, you're still going to get some goals. The depth is what makes some of these teams so great. Except for today's point, the Edmonton Oilers. Their depth is really minimal. But I want to go to you first here, Dave, on your thoughts on this marquee matchup for today.
Well, this is the marquee matchup. There's no question about that because there's a lot on the line here. The Golden Knights are trying to win the division. They're trying to also get the President's Cup or President's Trophy, whatever it's called, and have home ice as long as they stay alive in the playoffs. So it's a big game for them. Colorado would still like to get that home ice advantage away from the Golden Knights, and they can still do it. So it's a really big game for both teams. But I look, when these teams meet in the playoffs, if at full strength, I think Colorado has an edge because the Golden Knights beat everybody with their transition game. That's the one team they're going to have issues with in their transition game because Colorado's faster than they are. But the Avalanche right now are the team battling some injuries. They're not going to be at full strength tonight. I would definitely like to know what McInnon's status is. But Golden Knights going to have about, 7,000 to 8,000 in the arena tonight. It's going to be noisy. Home ice advantage is big. Team's got positive momentum right now. I don't think it's going to be a bet for me, but kind of a close call. I definitely lean to the Knights in this one.
That's where I'm looking too, and I find it so interesting, guys. People have said this year, not even with fans being back, that home ice doesn't really matter because there's no fans, or home ice doesn't matter this year. To me, that's a load of BS because it's been very evident that home ice advantage has been a factor, whether or not we've seen fans in the building or not. These top teams have been strong at home. Carolina, Vegas, Colorado, even the Maple Leafs. I mean, these top teams have secured home ice. They have protected their home ice. And I'm right there with Dave, Carm. I think that, some of these mobile defensemen are out for the Avalanche. We have Nathan McKinnon, a question mark. I think the Avalanche get into the second round and win their matchup quite easily. But that'll be it for another day here. What are your thoughts on tonight's game?
Wow, look at you. The Avalanche get into the second round easily over the Minnesota Wild if that's who they if they finish in second. Listen, Dave said it. The number one seed's up for grabs. Obviously, Vegas wins the number one seed with a win tonight. The Avs can keep their hopes alive if they win tonight and sweep the LA Kings. Yeah, we have to see what the status is on Nathan McKinnon. Which also affects where my lean is. And my lean here is not to the side because my side selection in this game is completely biased. I picked Colorado to win the division at the beginning of the year in our preseason show, along with the Bruins to win theirs, Carolina to win theirs, and the Leafs to win theirs. So I'm hoping to hit 3 out of 4 if the Avs can win this division. I'm going to lean to the over here, Andrew. I think we're going to see some goals. I don't think it's going to be as tight checking as people would normally expect between these two. Having fans in the stands in Vegas is a complete different atmosphere for those games. If you watched their last game, it's so much better. I can't wait to get fans into every NHL arena and football stadium. We need to sort of return to normal, and we're getting there. But it's great to watch. Listening to the fans. As far as actionable info, I can't really give you any until we know what the lineups are here and we know whether McKinnon plays. He's a big part of that team. With that said, if he's in the lineup, I'm going to lean to the over here of 5.5.
All right, Carmine, looking towards the over, Avalanche and Golden Knights. Let's jump into our next matchup. The Boston Bruins, the New York Islanders go head-to-head here. And let's be honest, a problem with the Islanders that we've seen, and it hasn't really been a rare problem, they just can't score consistently. Right now, they have trouble putting up goals on the score sheet. It's been an issue for them. They're playing a Bruins team that is actually off a loss. Guys, I could not believe that. I had a 5% play on the Bruins in regulation off that terrific spot for them. I believe the New York Rangers would come in flat in that first meeting. Then the Bruins lose that second meeting. Now we see this Islanders team off one win, but prior to that, they did not look good whatsoever. I believe these odds are exactly where they should be. I expected some more action and a little bit of movement, though, on the Bruins side, but I can't go anywhere here, guys, besides betting on this Boston Bruins team. You have to bet on what you're seeing. You have to bet on what these games are telling you, and right now, the Islanders aren't playing Islanders hockey right now, and I'm going to bet on this Bruins team. to continue playing at the level that they are. And, I think they're going to only get better as the playoffs approach. And the thing is, these two teams both have talented goaltenders. The difference is one team actually has two lines that can score. The other doesn't really seem to have that. Dave, I'll go to you first here.
Well, the Bruins are off a very bad third period against the Rangers because that was a game they looked like they were going to win, and they just had an awful third period. Blew the game, and that didn't really matter as far as the standings are concerned to a great extent because they're going to be on the road, and so are the Islanders, to open the Stanley Cup playoffs. So from that standpoint, tonight's game doesn't mean much, but you still have, whether you finish third or fourth on the line. I don't know. I mean, I'm only giving my opinion on it, but if I'm Boston,
Right.
I'd rather face Washington in the first round. Even though they're a more physical team than Pittsburgh, I'd rather face Washington than a Penguins team that just doesn't lose any home games. And we'll have the, what do they got? 4 losses all year at home in regulation. And that I don't think I don't want to be on the road team in that series, to be honest with you. So you've got a team off a bad game, a bad third period. And they are playing their regulars tonight. It looks like an all hands on deck. I assume the Islanders will as well. Islanders coming off maybe a little bit of an emotional win. Last home game ever at Nassau County Coliseum, although we've heard that before, but this time I think it is actually the last time they will ever play in that building.
We have heard it before, Dave. We have heard that.
Yeah. I think this time it's for real. That's the end for that. So that was somewhat emotional. I think the spot favors Boston. It's a big price, but the Bruins do look like the right side.
I think so too. Carm, where are you going in this game?
Yeah, all good points there. The Islanders still have a chance at that number 3 seed, as slim as it is, if they win this game. And I think that they need to win it in regulation time in order to, because a win in even a win in OT doesn't puts them tied with the Bruins, but regulation wins goes to Boston 25-24, and the Bruins still have a game tomorrow, which becomes meaningless should they win this one, because they'll be Washington is locked into that number 2 seed. Do we see the Islanders pull their goalie late in the game if the game is tied? There's a possibility. It's one of the weird things that happens towards the end of the regular season. Listen, the Islanders are doing something similar to what they did last year. Just before the COVID break, they couldn't keep the puck out of the net. They didn't look like they could score a goal. And then there was that huge, then obviously the pandemic hit. There was that long break. When they returned, that break actually helped them because they played very well in the playoffs after, I think, losing 8 of their last 9 games before the shutdown. With that said, they have not been good against the other teams in this division on the road that are in the playoffs. Combined, they've played Pittsburgh, Washington, and Boston 12 times on the road. Their record is 1-11. I make a point of, if you can't beat the top 3 teams when you face them, and specifically on the road where you're going to have to play them when you have the number 4 seed, you're not going to go very far, I think, in the playoffs. While the Isles have beaten the Bruins 5 out of the 7 times, that was 5 in a row. The Bruins have won the last 2. I like this Bruins squad tonight. I'll take the Bruins. A slight lean to Bruins in regulation time, but I wouldn't fault you for laying the -160, -165, because that's really not a lot of juice with a team that I think is better here. So Bruins for me tonight.
Great stat there, Carmen. A great spot. And guys, I also think that we have to tip our hats a little bit to the leadership core of the Boston Bruins. I did an interview actually with the Bruins reporter prior to this season, Jimmy Murphy from the Boston HockeyNow.com, and he was talking about, Bergeron will be a captain on many other teams, if it wasn't for Big Z being the captain of the Bruins. When Big Z went over to the Bruins, it was pretty much apparent that he was going to be the captain of that team. And we look across the locker room of that team. They have some younger players, don't get me wrong, but they have a great leadership core, and they have had the ability to bounce back, especially at home. Like Dave said, as a poor third period, I'm right there with these guys. I believe the Bruins get the job done. Let's move on. Let's move on here, guys. Our next game, we have our dump or chase segment. The Carolina Hurricanes, the Nashville Predators. Hurricanes -140, Predators +120. Our next 2 games, Carm, we're talking about these are actual playoff series that are already set in stone. They're already nailed in, and minus 140 here for the Carolina Hurricanes, a team that you and I are both pretty high on. We both have futures that the number has moved big time on. But what about tonight, Carm? Where do you go here tonight?
Yeah, again, Andrew, that whole dynamic comes into this of starting goalies, whether players are sitting, and because of the fact that the NHL playoff end date has been extended. If the playoffs were starting on the 11th, we'd probably see Nashville resting Saros. He's been their go-to goalie and is playing extremely well, and maybe they give him a day off or the game off heading into the playoffs. But we're not looking to start until like probably the 19th. But with that said, he could still get the night off. The goalies aren't confirmed. I'm pretty sure it's going to be Mrazek for Carolina, but we'll have to find out about that too. You know, he had that long break where he was off due to injury, and he's played 2 of the last 3 games for them, and he's looked good in 2 of the last 3 games. And he's a goalie with limited starts this year, 11 or 12 starts, I think it is, where his goals against average is like 1.79. Awful loss to Nashville last time out. I think that the Hurricanes probably want to end their season on a winning note instead of losing 3 to and then having a 1 week or longer break before they kick off the playoffs. So you're getting a short price on them. This isn't about sending a message to any team. Nashville's not looking to send a message to Carolina before the first round, and vice versa. I'm just taking the better team here, which is Carolina.
I'll disagree about the sending messages thing, Carm, because I think that you already know who you're going to play in the playoffs. It's in the back of your head. We saw what's going on with Tampa Bay and Florida right now. I expect to see that again tonight. I mean, 2 teams that know they're going to play each other. They're not going to be friendly out there. You know, I don't think they're going to be buddy out there and shaking hands. That's for sure. I think there's going to be a couple extra checks after the whistle, a couple extra slashes, and it definitely means something.
And I get it, Andrew. And I get it, but the thing is, with this realignment and these condensed schedules and teams facing each other so much more, they know each other at this point. There is so much game film between the 2 teams that the first game of the playoffs, which is usually a feel-out game, is just going to be an extension of the series where these teams have faced each other 8 or 9 times. You're not going to discover anything in game 1 that you didn't already know about these teams, but we'll agree to disagree on sending the message.
Dave, you have one best bet up at wt.buzz/DC, but where are you going in this game? Can you give us a lean or any thoughts here?
Yeah. I'm waiting for a goalie announcement, and if it's Pecorine, I will be on Nashville tonight. This is going to be, if he plays, this will be the final game. It absolutely will be the final game Rene plays for the Predators, and it might very well be his last game as an NHL goaltender. We saw the second worst team in the league play an absolutely phenomenal game last week in Ryan Miller's last game. The Ducks, who stink, went out and they were sky high for that game because Ryan Miller's family was there. It was going to be his final game. He's retiring, and they probably played their best game of the year. I think if it's, I'm just waiting to see if Rene's confirmed as the goaltender, and if he is, I will be betting the Nashville Predators, and it will be a decent-sized play, because that is the emotional difference in this game. They will be all in to send him out on a winning note, especially, remember, this guy who's been there for a long, long time. I would assume they're going to put his number, retire his number at some point in the future. He's been the face of the Nashville Predators for a long time. You will see a huge effort out of the Predators tonight if Rene is in goal. So I'm waiting on that one.
Okay.
But that is an angle I absolutely love.
If I'm not mistaken, Dave, that's an angle that has worked well for you. As I got to know you last year during the KBO show together, we talked about that. NBA, that's a huge angle in the NBA as well. The closeout games, the farewell games, it's definitely a huge angle. I want to say real quick, guys, I'm not sure if this is factual, so don't hold me to it, but I've heard that the NHL might just start the playoffs while the Canucks and the Flames are finishing out their games. It's accurate. Yeah. It's interesting the way it worked out. The Vancouver's playing Calgary, so kind of meaningless games to end the season anyway. But for TV rights, for player contracts, for draft picks, so on and so forth, you have to play those games. Guys, we have to jump forward with this show. We have to get into our barn burner segment. It's the Sunshine State game here, the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Florida Panthers. Total sits at 6. Carm, I'll go to you, man. Quick thoughts.
Quick thoughts. I'm going to lean to the over on this one. This is another one where the number 2 seed is still up for grabs. These teams are going to play each other. They know each other. When they meet, they normally score goals. And there's that element, again, that Tampa has to win this game. I think Tampa has to win this game, I believe so, in regulation time in order to take that number 2 seed away from, or just win the game, actually, because they have more wins. So, win in regulation time. That's right. Sorry. A win in regulation time. They can't give the Florida Panthers a point, or that sets them into the number 3 seed. Regardless, these are 2 very good teams that can score. And with seeing some of the Tampa Bay players coming back into the lineup and in time for the playoffs, I think this is we're going to see a few goals here tonight. Intensity level of a tight checking game, I don't see it here. In all honesty, Andrew, give me the over here. And I would actually a slight lean to Florida here as a small favorite. They played extremely well in a game that I thought that they were going to lose on the weekend. Can they do it again? Sure, why not? But as far as my play here, it's the over.
Dave?
Nothing.
I'm going to go right there with Carm on the over as well, just because I think that animosity will be there. The the penalty minutes will be there, and with the talent these 2 teams have, give me a few power plays, and I'll see a few goals go in the net. That's our show, guys. Those are all the segments. We're going to get into best bets from all 3 of us and a few promos that we do have. And guys, don't forget to use that coupon code that Dave has. I believe it's DC99, right? Dave, you can correct me if I'm wrong. $99 for 30 days of hockey action. Dave, why don't we go with you? A little best bet for you, a little recommendation, any thoughts on a certain game, and what you have up for tonight, man?
Nashville,
okay.
I gave the reasons
Nashville
why.
For Dave.
I mean, I'm not going to repeat the same thing and be redundant. Nashville Predators.
All right, I like it. Don't forget to use that coupon code, guys, DC99. Get 30 days of Dave's hockey plays. That includes the playoffs, obviously. Most of the playoffs, of course, as well. Carmel, go to you, man. Best bet and what you have up for tonight.
Yeah, up a couple plays up in NHL tonight. I may add 1 or 2 more. I'm waiting to see lineups and get any information that I can that would make leans actual plays. As far as the best bet for the show, I am going to go with the Colorado and Vegas over 5.5. I mentioned it earlier. My bias is that Colorado wins this game, but that is strictly biased based on me wanting them to win the division. Hopefully we'll see some goals tonight and enough to get us over this total. No afternoon soccer. I had a couple soccer plays up for today. They've already gone off this morning, and they are both winners to extend that streak to 13-0. So I'll have some plays up later today for tomorrow, and I'll have them up on $9 Monday, so you can take advantage of it before they return to regular pricing at midnight.
13-0, cashing tickets before I had my morning coffee. Congratulations to Carm on that. My best bet, guys, I've only used it a few times on the year, so nobody can call me a homer. I'm on the Montreal Canadiens tonight. I'm not sure what the lineup will look like for the Edmonton Oilers, but I do think it'll be a down spot for them. They're feeling pretty great about themselves. Meanwhile, as pretty much everybody points out to me, the Habs, well, they barely even deserve to be where they are. So I feel like every game from now on means the world to them. They will bounce back after a tough weekend, and I think it's a pretty fair price here in the pick'em price. Give me the Canadiens on the money line. And for tonight, guys, I have a 5% MLB play, looking to make it 6 straight 5% MLB winners. I am 5-0 on the season with MLB 5% plays on a 33-12 MLB run. And guys, that play is just $9. It's $9 Monday across both sites from everybody. Top plays, regular plays, just $9. I have the Habs Carmine has the Avs and Golden Knights over 5.5, and Dave with the Predators plus 120. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. We'll see you tomorrow right here on WagerTalk TV.
Each and every Monday is an added bonus. All new users will receive $25 in wager bucks credited to their accounts, available for immediate use after their initial $9 Monday purchase. So make sure to take advantage of $9 Mondays at WagerTalk.com.